Hey, it's America's Supermom. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. This series is the Corona Chronicles. I created this so that we would have an outlet of positivity in the midst of a lot of negativity. You know what I'm talking about. All the news, the fear around this virus, how it can affect us, what the new normal is looking like, and how so many things have changed that a lot of people feel like um, it is the end of the world, so to speak. So, this podcast was created so that those of us who have hope, who are willing to move forward with this new normal and innovate new things that will help us to be creative and positive. That is what this platform is for us to come together and share that positivity and that light with those who may need it. So if you're interested in sharing your insight, please reach out because we can never have enough positive news. So sit back and enjoy the show.
So I want to thank you guys for listening today. I'm really excited about my next guest. Amy and I met organically through Facebook, I believe, and we are in another company together, Send Out Cards, and we connected on Zoom, and we took that connection even greater, where we did a little mini series on Facebook during some of this crazy time to kind of give some of the people that we serve in our different platforms an opportunity to kind of relax and kind of be in a place of control during this time that really was filled with so much chaos and uncertainty. So I'm excited to collaborate with her again today and have her here to share her insight and words of wisdom. So before we get into the interview, I want to give Amy the floor so that she can introduce herself and let us know a little bit about her.
Hi, great. Thanks, Lachelle. I'm so excited that you asked me to be on your podcast, and I think this is amazing, this platform that you have to help people, especially women, to gain back their personal power. So I am a rapid transformational therapist, and I know that sounds like a mouthful. It's RTT, form of hypnotherapy that was started by a lady named Marissa Peer, and she's been doing this now for over 30 years. She's from the UK. She's actually the UK's #1 therapist, and she's had numerous celebrities and high profile people actually as her clients over these past 30 plus years. And she is now recently, in the last 3 or 4 years, taking her skills and her techniques that she developed and is now training other people to become therapists so that she can reach more people than just she could on her own. So I came across her in a podcast back in October of 2018 and followed her for a while, did one of her programs, and then in June of 2019, I signed up to take the program to actually become a therapist. And after over 250 hours of online and in-person training, I completed my course in October of 2019 at a 5-day, 10-hour-a-day long intensive training in LA, live with Marissa herself, as well as some of her trainers. So I've been certified, like I said, since the end of October 2019. And this actually completes an amazing I am statement, if you will, or affirmation I made back when I was only 18 or 19 years old, where I was able to see Zig Ziglar live in person in a stadium of 20,000 plus people and hear him say things that to me I'd never really heard before, you know. And one of the biggest ones is you can have everything you want if you help enough people get what they want. And some of his other philosophies, which I'm sure some of your readers are familiar with. And I sat there that day in that stadium, and I wanted to also continue sharing his message. I wanted to help people like he did for me to be able to know that my past doesn't define me. I don't live in a box except the box that I put on myself, and I didn't want to live in that box. I wanted to do more, have more, be more. I grew up on a farm on 80 acres in a rural community, and I kind of had always thought that yeah, I may have big dreams, but I don't really think I can fulfill them because of my background and just living in such a small rural community where, I didn't see the bigger picture of the world very much, except, of course, the glamour on TV and things. So I didn't really think it was possible for me. But when I heard him that day, I realized, yes, it is. I can do the things that I wanted to do. And helping people to believe in themselves became one of them that day. And so when I heard Marissa and learned more about her, I realized that through this rapid form of hypnotherapy, which is absolutely amazing and transformational, I realized this is really the way that I can help people rid their limiting beliefs, understand the cause of them, the root cause of them. Why did they start? How did they start? And help them to understand that and release them, because they're acquired. You acquire these limiting beliefs. So if you acquire them, you can release them. And then that means then you can put in new positive, uplifting beliefs and use that to help you portray forward into the life that you really want to have.
I love that. And so, because a lot of people during this time, they're doing a lot of reflection. They're recognizing, life is filled with a lot of opportunities. However, we have the limiting beliefs of being on this job for 20 years in a certain industry, and now we're nervous about pivoting to a different area. So a lot of people are recognizing what some of these limiting beliefs are. So give somebody who's listening an idea of how long this transformation takes place. Is this something you can get in one setting? Does it take, weeks, months? What does that look like in terms of getting the transformation they desire?
Sure, absolutely. And I get that question a lot. And if you remember in the title, it's called Rapid Transformational Therapy, right? So that kind of gives you a little bit of a clue. Mm-hmm. So most sessions can be taken care of most issues can be taken care of in just one session. But it really depends on a few things, of course. And then there's also, your more high profile, I want to say, like issues like PTSD, bulimia, anorexia. Those are going to take more than one session, most, of course. But most sessions, like I'll give you an example of my most recent client. She had massive anxiety and debilitating, to the point that it was, anxiety and depression mixed in there, as well as confidence issues, just wanted more confidence in what she was wanting to do, but she was having anxiety over doing things and taking care of her husband's business as well as her own. And so we just had a session recently, and we discovered the root cause, and it tends to usually be things from childhood. Hers was actually a couple of things from younger adulthood, and then when she was a teenager, that we were able to discover by accessing her subconscious mind to give us the answers, because your subconscious mind remembers absolutely everything that was said or done to you, around you, about you. It actually stores all those memories, and we may not consciously be remembering them. We may think about those events that happened to us, but we may not really actually realize the root cause, that they are the root cause, or the meaning we gave them and the feelings we had behind them. So in this session, we were able to access the subconscious mind in a deep, relaxed state, which is really all hypnosis is. Hypnosis is really just being in that deep, relaxed state. Everybody goes into a form of hypnosis right before you go to sleep at night, right as you're waking up in the morning. And I also like to use the scenario of when you're driving down the street or driving down the road and you're driving somewhere, and it's a road you've taken dozens, hundreds, even if not thousands of times. You're going down the road, but your conscious mind is thinking of, the grocery list or the things you got to do at work or whatever it may be. But it's your subconscious mind that's really doing the driving, because you know that road so well, and that's your subconscious mind actually doing the work for you. So it's that same kind of thing with hypnosis. I want to make just a note here too that, we have the stage hypnotists those are for show, and that's a totally different thing. I don't make anybody cluck like a chicken in my sessions. So I want to make that perfectly clear. But anyway, getting back to this client, so we were able to, in this deep, relaxed state, ask her subconscious mind, what is the root cause of your anxiety? What is the root cause of your depression and your confidence issues? And the three scenes that came up was, being at work and when she was like 20 or something, and the boss was treating her that she didn't know what she was doing. She wasn't good enough. But yet she knew what her skill levels was. She knew, but she also then saw another coworker who was kind of getting away with not doing as much work as well, but was not being chastised, So just a simple, example like that we'll use. So, but then there was the two other scenes that we went to and really was able to discover what was keeping her stuck now today at 51, I believe, years old, from wanting to do the billing for her husband's business and take care of her own business, and even something as simple as going out and putting the bird feeders out. She had literally forced herself to do it because she just was so anxious in her own head all the time and had depression and whatnot. So I got after the session, there's more to the session after we kind of discover that we do some things that give her that power back after that understanding of how do you want your life to be, and reminding herself that that's not her, the way that those events in her past were, that's not her. They were an event. She gave a certain meaning to them, but that meaning doesn't serve her anymore. And now she wants her life to be more like where she has motivation and she's calm and she's collected and she can think clearly. And all my clients get a personalized recording also that I do right there in the session for them to listen to for a minimum of 21 days each day. And that's just solidifying and changing those habits, right? Because we have those habits in our head, the things we're thinking and the bad thoughts we tell ourselves. And so we need to flip those. I call it flipping the narrative. So we need to release the negative words and just say, just stop saying those and then tell our minds the good things. So that's what we do in the recording is I say in the recording, you're releasing, you're eradicating, you're eliminating those old beliefs, you're shattering and smashing them. They're no longer there. And that sets that up to get rid of those old beliefs. And then we talk about the way the client wants their life to be, that I am calm, I am clear-minded, I can think on my feet and whatever. And I use their own words, the things that they've said in the session and the things that they've told me in the pre-session consultation and in the intake form. And I put their own words in the recording for them. So it's what they want to hear. And then they have that recording to listen to, like I said, for a minimum of 21 days each day to help solidify those changes. So I got a message from her. The session was done. We were done by about 1:00 in the afternoon. And I got a message from her just later that evening. Like she went and she cleaned one of the homes that she needs to clean because she cleans for some people that have vacation homes up here. So she went and cleaned a home. She came back. She did her husband's billing. And she just said she just felt so energized even right after the session. And then I even got a message from her right away the next day. She said, I had a whole nother day without anxiety. And so that's an example of where many things can be taken care of in just one session. I also do 2 follow-up coaching calls with my clients too as well. So I call it a 30-day rapid transformational ripple effect experience and event that we do. So it's a whole 30-day package that people get with me. And but over that course of that time too, we discuss, do you think you need a second session? I don't cookie cut my clients and say, yes, this is definitely going to be a 1 session or a 2 or a 3 session. We wait till after that first session, and then we kind of go forward together and decide, do you feel like you need a second session? How are things going? And we discuss it together and we just kind of go with what happens, because a lot of times what seems like it's going to be a big issue, like this gal, she literally just shed it all in 1 session. And then sometimes someone will come in and I think it'll be pretty easy and a whole lot of stuff will come up and, we'll need a second session or a 3rd session for that. So, but it's usually awesome. 1. And if not, then it's usually no more than a 2nd or a 3rd. Again, aside from those more severe cases that I mentioned earlier.
I like that. Now, so, this is great insight, because how does someone know to pursue a program or package with you as opposed to any other coach? Because you hear the different programs that a lot of people say, hey, overcome limiting beliefs, build your confidence. How is it that someone can determine which type to go for?
That's a great question.
Does that question make
Sure,
sense?
yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, and there is so many great modalities out there for different things. There's business coaches and life coaches, and there's other hypnotherapists and all kinds of different ways to get help out there. And I do have a lot of people that come to me kind of after they've exhausted everything else, and tried everything else, because everything else is still dealing with your conscious mind. And those are all great. And that's what I did for the past 30 years. I've been a personal development junkie since those early days when I first heard Zig Ziglar. And I always reading positive mental attitude books and personal development books and all that. But I just never was getting much results. I, had some success, but I kept asking myself, like, why can't I break this? Why can't I really get to the success that I really, really see for myself? Because I really, really believe I can have it, but it wasn't happening. I was doing, the I am statements and the affirmations and all this stuff in my other businesses and whatnot. And it wasn't until I came across RTT that it was, and I had my own sessions, like I said early on, back in my very first session was the end of December 2018. We found a therapist about 2.5 hours from here and went to her. We could have done it through Zoom, and I do Zoom sessions too as well, but we chose to drive down. My husband and I both chose to drive down and have a person with her. A session with her in person. That was just our choice. But Zoom sessions work just as well. But anyway, so kind of getting back to your question, it wasn't until I had that session that we accessed my subconscious mind and said, why do I have these blocks? What is holding me back? And oh my gosh, one of them it's almost embarrassing to tell you, but one of the scenes that came up in my session that first time was, I was probably, I want to say 10 or 11, and I always knew that this bothered me, but I never really realized to the extent, again, until I actually was in this session and we were asking my subconscious mind, what is holding me back? Because I've always had this event kind of come to mind. And that's when I was, like I said, I was 10 or 11 years old. And like I said, I grew up on a farm. So I'm standing in the kitchen in the farm and I'm cutting potatoes for my mom. And I could never cut them the right size. They were either too big, they were too small. I just was never doing it right, no matter how hard I tried, right? And just that one alone, but there was 2 or 3 other events that we came to as well in the session. But that one stands out. Like, how could something as simple as not cutting potatoes when you're 10 or 11 affect you for the next 40 years, potentially? But it does, because you give them those meanings of, I'm not good enough, I can never do anything right, and stuff like that. And so by accessing your subconscious mind, it gives you the answers that your conscious mind just really can't. Like I said, and some people do. They have great success with just doing the affirmations and the visualizing and those kinds of things. So they're all great modalities, and having a life coach or a business coach is still a phenomenal thing. I have, one myself, my own, because we all work different ways and kind of relate to people differently. And there's a difference between a coach, and a therapist, too, as well. So a coach is going to more like coach you with things, again, from a different perspective than a therapist is going to, where we can really get in there, dig up those root causes of what's the real reason of what's going on, what's holding you back, which then can kind of help you and a coach as well work forward with, different issues of creativity or mindset and those kinds of things. So does that kind of make sense?
That's definitely, yeah, that's a great thing. So, for somebody who is, you're in this space where you're like, you want change, what would be the best course you think to have them go through first? Because, like you said, I tried all these different things, and, is it best to kind of go with the more subconscious and then, have all the other things add on first? Because I know just in my industry with being a coach, everybody comes to me and they're like, oh, I know what's wrong with me. And then you get into the sessions and it's not
Yeah.
anything about what they
Yeah.
have already
Yes,
diagnosed.
I do. Yes.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, yeah, what would you
Yeah, well,
recommend in that case?
sure.
For
Yeah,
people
and
that are
definitely.
listening. Yeah.
And I don't want to say this because it kind of toots my own horn, if you will, but by getting in and finding that out first, what is the cause of why you're yo-yo dieting? Why do you keep losing weight and then gain it back again and then some? Why do you binge eat on cookies? What is it about cookies? Because there's probably a reason why it's cookies and not muffins, or whatever. So when you can get in and access that subconscious mind that gives you the answers of XYZ, this is what happened to you. Remember when you used to bake cookies with grandma and it made you feel safe and it made you feel loved? Well, that's why now you binge eat on cookies, because it reminds you of grandma, those times with grandma. So when you can find those issues out, like what is really going on in that subconscious mind of yours that is so holding on to these events, and again, like I said, the meaning and the feeling you gave them, that is holding you back from being able to do the work that your coach, or your other modalities, things you're trying that are just, they're working, but maybe not to the extent that you'd like them to.
I like that. And so, a lot of people have fear, because they're afraid of what they're going to find out. It's like, now is a good time to reflect, to get quiet, find out what you're thinking. But people are just like, oh, I don't know about it. What advice would you give them in terms of doing that inner reflection, and maybe what kind of questions they should ask more so than, just running off somewhere on a tangent, but how can they do it strategically?
So do you mean like when they're in a session with me, or asking themselves?
Yet asking themselves. So like, you're at that point where you're like, you know what, I need help with this, maybe having that time to really kind of identify what some of those blocks are, or, you know what I'm saying? You're just kind of leaving this old mindset and trying to bridge over to something new and being open. But when you're in that quiet space, people are afraid to have that quiet space. So what type of questions would you recommend they begin asking themselves to kind of, enter into that?
So basically you're saying to kind of make that plunge of not being afraid to find out what the problem is. Is that what you're, okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, my first thing would be, how bad do you want the results that you're seeking? Do you want whatever it may be? Do you want to lose 50 pounds really bad, or are you just kind of okay with where you're at? If you're not full out committed, then it's probably not going to work, right? As with anything, you can't say, well, I'm going to train to run a marathon, but I'm only going to work out 2 or 3 days a week. You've got to be all in pretty much if you really want that result, that end result. So that's one of the questions I ask my people that call me for a discovery call is, how committed are you to this? Because you have to be all in. I don't want people coming in to see me that just really aren't quite ready yet, because it's just going to be a waste of their time, as well as mine. I want to be able to help them when they're really ready and committed to being full in, ready to find the answers. And then as well as definitely committed to listening to the recording for the next 21 days each day. So that's the number one thing is how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to break that ceiling of your income that you just can't seem to get past? Or like I said, lose X number of pounds and keep them off for good. those kinds of things. You have to know how bad you want it, and then just be open, because as with many people, there's things in our past that we know are scary. We know there's some really bad stuff that happens, and that could be very well of what they may be afraid might come up, right? And the thing to remember is you're not reliving it. Yes, you're going back and you're remembering it, but you're reviewing it just like you're reviewing like a television show or on a computer screen. You're watching the event happen. It's not re-happening to you. No one's going to harm you again. You're right there. And I when these really nasty scenes come up in someone's past, I'm right there and I remind them, you're here with me. Nothing's going to harm you. You're safe. We're just reviewing it like it's on a computer screen. You're safe with me. Just treat it as if you're watching a movie, and let's walk through this, because if you don't heal this, it's always going to be there holding you back. And a lot of people have stuffed a lot of those emotions from those unpleasant events that happened. Sorry. Got to mute my phone. I'm sorry. And but we have to heal from them. We have to get in there. We have to, because a lot of people, like I said, they had these events happen, but they never really dealt with the feelings that they felt, the anger, the frustration, the humiliation, whatever it may be. They've never really dealt with them. They've stuffed them. And when you've stuffed them, that's what's the big issue that's holding you back and keeping you stuck, is stuffing those feelings. So you have to face them head on. Yep, some of them are really nasty and unpleasant, but it's, again, just remember that you're there with me. You're not reliving it. You're just reviewing it, and you've got it fleshed out and rid your body of all those feelings. And those are the ones that really, really, really have the amazing transformation, because they're holding in stuff from decades so often, and you have to let it go. And then we also empower them. We do what's called like dialogue with the herder. So if someone has hurt you and you never really got a chance to tell them how you really felt about that, we do it right there in the session, as if that person's standing in front of them. That herder does not get to speak back, but they have to kind of stay there in that vision of them standing there, and you just tell them everything you've ever wanted to tell them, how bad you hurt me, whatever, and some of my clients just really like scream it out. They cry it out, and man, they just feel so light afterwards, after they're able to do that. And it's an amazing, amazing, amazing transformation.
So good. So that's awesome. Now, so switching gears a little bit, for people who, are in your industry or space, and, what advice would you give them now as we move forward? Because there are many people who are going to be needing that type of services, as we transition into a new normal. Some states have opened, some are still kind of doing it in phases, but, some people may have some blocks right now because of,
right.
Unemployment things and things like that. So what kind of advice would you give others in this industry about marketing themselves and moving forward in the services that they provide and the value that they can give to people?
Definitely that, because of everything that has happened, people do need to heal. And the sooner they start their healing process, the better. So I would say, just let people know you're here for them. You're here to be that sounding board and that person that they can come to. It's confidential, of course, and obviously I know with me I can't speak for others, but there's no judgment. So just some of those words that lets people know that you're a safe place, you're a safe space, you're a safe person to come and talk to, and that there's going to be a lot I think for years that we're all going to be dealing with everything that has happened and may still even happen over the next few months. So, just I think coming at it with from a place of service and love and compassion.
Mhm.
Just again, like I said, letting people know that you are here. With me, like I said, we can do things through Zoom and they are just as effective. I've had clients, I'm in Michigan. I've had clients in New York and I've had clients in
Mhm.
Oregon as well. So, and just done through Zoom, and they're just as powerful. They're just as amazing. So they don't have to be done in person, like I said, at least
Mhm.
with me. But I think just coming at it from a place of compassion and love, and you're here, and
Mhm.
we all need to kind of come together with this and have a more understanding of where people are coming from instead of that place of judgment.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. So this is great. I've gotten pages of notes as usual. So this is great insight. Now, so what is the best way for the
So,
audience
well,
to
like
get
we
a
met
hold
on
of you?
Facebook. You can look me up on Facebook. My Facebook business page is
Mhm.
Ripple Effect Results with Amy J Thoreson. Have just started on
Mhm.
Instagram, so you can look me up on Instagram at Amy J Thoreson. LinkedIn is another place. Just I think if you uh, search my name, Amy J Thoreson, in the LinkedIn comments. And then I do have a website, amyjthorson.com, that has my information on there. That's where someone can book a free discovery call to find out more about, how RTT
Mhm.
works, if, it's right for them, and a little bit more about this, how the session goes, and if you have other further questions. And then I have a blog on my website too as well. So I've recently been, I'm in number 3 of the 4 rules of the mind. So that is what has been the topic on my blog as I post. So I do one each, well, I post them every 2 weeks. So I'm on number 3 of the 4 rules of the mind. So that's on my blog. And I do have a newsletter if someone wants to too. They can sign up for that
Mm.
um, on my website too as well. There'll be a pop-up that you can set up for my newsletter as well.
Awesome. So, any final words that you want to
Just
share with everybody?
know that you are enough. You're here for a reason. Every one of us are.
Mm.
We are all made by our creator, whatever that is for you, but there is a higher power that put us here. And that alone speaks to me that we are important. We matter. We were someone who wanted us here that put us here. We didn't come from our parents. We came through our parents, but we came from our creator.
Mm.
And so that creator is said, you are important enough to be here, and you have a purpose, and you have a reason. And it doesn't have to be something grand and huge and wonderful as far as like, a big, I'm going to change the world kind of thing, but changing your own little world, whether that's you and your family or whatever it may be. And so that, and then also just know that when one person changes, when you improve your life, it just, people are watching. You are inspiration to others. When you lose a certain amount of weight, or you can give more because you're earning now more income, you're giving more to charities or whatever, then it just really does create that ripple effect of results that just spreads beyond what you can see.
Mm. Love that. Great words. So glad that we connected. I've really enjoyed this. So I want to thank you so much, Amy, and I encourage the listeners to reach out to you and really take advantage of this time because, like I said, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've never been at this juncture before, and it's a great level playing field to, have a fresh start, literally, with overcoming some of these blocks that many of us are plagued with. So I encourage everybody to reach out to you. And I really want to thank you for your time today and look forward to
Absolutely.
us
Thank you so
collaborating
much,
again in the
Lachelle, for
future.
having me on. You have been a blessing in my life. I'm so glad that we did connect and got to know each other. And I would encourage others too to go on either yours or my Facebook page and look up those talks that we did back in, what was that, March, I think? March and April.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were some great fun
Yeah.
talks. They're short. I think we kept them under like 10 minutes, didn't we? So yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, that's one of the things I love
Right,
about video. Hey,
absolutely,
it
for
still can
sure.
go
Yeah,
virtual,
and then
okay?
let's keep in touch and collaborate some more. And yeah, I'm so blessed to have you and have met you and have you in my life.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, yeah, so we will get together
Yep, you too,
again
dear.
soon. So you have a wonderful
Okay, take care.
afternoon,
Bye
okay?
bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I really enjoy providing content that inspires and challenges us to be a better version of ourselves. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, please email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. If there was something in this episode that resonated with you, it probably will resonate with someone else. So please share it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But those aha moments, those moments of really getting something and changing your perspective are very, very pivotal in having people change the trajectory of their lives. And so being able to share insightful information so that other people can grow is the easiest thing that we can do as we pay it forward. So again, I want to thank you all for listening. And if you have time, write out a review. Go to iTunes, Anchor, wherever you can find this podcast on any of those platforms and write a review about what impact this episode had on you, what you learned, or whatever. Any feedback is great because it just helps me to understand what content is really beneficial for those that are listening. So again, I want to thank you all for your support and taking the time to spend some time with me and my guests. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.